Hey everyone, and welcome back to another explainer produced by Forge College. I am super excited to dive into this one with you. So, if you recall from our previous lesson, Mapping Pre-Blockchain Innovations, we mapped out this sprawling, kind of chaotic territory of early ideas. But since we're working on our capstone project, tracing the intellectual lineage of blockchain, which is a major part of the History Before Blockchain module in your Blockchain Fundamentals course, mapping is really only half the battle. Now we actually have to prove those claims. Otherwise, our entire historical timeline is going to collapse like a digital Jenga tower. So grab your hard hats, because today we are engineering some cold, hard historical evidence.
Here is our blueprint for today's process. We'll start by moving from maps to hard evidence, then we'll gather our raw materials, build a comparison table, forge the evidence chain, and finally run through a quality control checkpoint. Let's get right into it.
All right, Section 1, from maps to hard evidence.
So, here's the big question. How do we actually know who invented what? I mean, we've mapped out early innovations chronologically, sure, but pointing at a cool concept and proving it actually influenced modern Web3, those are two totally different things. Because frankly, without rigorous, documented proof, a historical claim is basically just a "trust me bro" scribbled on a sticky note. If we are going to build a definitive timeline of blockchain history, we literally cannot rely on casual internet summaries. We need undeniable sources.
Which brings us to Section 2, gathering your raw materials.
Before we start building our case, we need to head down to the digital lumberyard and inspect our materials. You wouldn't build a house with rotting wood, right? So we're starting with the absolute gold standard, the primary source. This is your original, first-hand documentary evidence, the rawest material available straight from the archives. We're talking about a 1990s cypherpunk mailing list memo, a snippet of original source code salvaged from a dusty old hard drive, or a direct patent filing clearly stamped with a date.
But let's be real. We can't always get our hands on the original artifact. Servers crash, hard drives get lost in cross-country moves, and archives shut down. And that is exactly where secondary sources step in. These sources offer analysis, interpretation, or commentary based on those primary sources. And they are an incredibly handy backup when the original document is, locked away behind a frustrating academic paywall or temporarily lost to history.
Then we have provenance notes. Listen, provenance is your ultimate stress test. It dictates exactly how much weight a load-bearing claim can actually hold. It's the metadata that explains where a source originated, its archival location, any access limitations, and potential modifications. Say you found a scanned copy of an old document. You absolutely must note if it has an editorial watermark or if it looks like pages are missing. Total transparency is everything when evaluating your materials.
Moving right along to Section 3, building the comparison table.
Okay, now we're on the assembly line. It is time to officially say goodbye to scattered digital sticky notes and chaotic text files. Your workspace needs to be structured with these exact 9 columns: title, author, date, identifier, source type, claim summary, provenance notes, relevance tag, and citation string. This standardized framework is your ultimate organizational tool. Seriously, whether you're tracking down the origins of hash functions or early digital cash, this keeps your research perfectly aligned. Now, a quick but absolutely vital tip for the workbench. Keep your claim summaries strictly factual. For example, simply write, David Chaum described a double spend concern in a 1990 memo. Please do not write, this proves David Chaum is the undisputed god of cryptocurrency. Keep it completely objective. Who said what and when. Save all your brilliant overarching interpretations for the evidence chain later.
And to make this assembly line run as smoothly as possible, we actually provide a little Python helper script, normalize_sources.py. Consider this your automated wrench. It tightens up the dataset to spare you the pure agony of formatting inconsistent historical dates. Because let's face it, mixing up month-first and year-first formats is a total nightmare. This tool validates missing fields and instantly normalizes those chaotic dates into a standard YYY-M-D format. Everything stays neat, uniform, and ready for review.
All right, Section 4, forging the evidence chain.
With our raw materials perfectly organized, it's time to fire up the blowtorch and weld them into an unbroken evidence chain. But you've got to assess your sources really carefully. Are you making a direct weld? That would be direct evidence, like documented correspondence, an explicit patent citation, or a clear, direct reference from one inventor to another. Or is it indirect evidence, like shared cryptographic techniques or contemporaneous diffusion, basically ideas just floating around the zeitgeist at the same time? You need to know exactly which type of weld you are making.
So,
For each of your prioritized innovations, you're going to draft a short paragraph using this exact blueprint. Start with the innovation identifier, link your primary source for that direct or indirect link, bring in your secondary source for analysis or support, and finish with a completely honest final assessment. Ask yourself, is this link direct, indirect, or just speculative? Being completely upfront about the actual strength of your evidence is what makes your timeline ironclad.
Finally, Section 5, the quality control checkpoint.
Before we ship this historical artifact off for peer review, we cannot afford any loose bolts in our timeline. Your data must pass this 5-step checklist. 1. Ensure you have at least 5 distinct sources with a minimum of 1 primary and 1 secondary. 2. Verify all 9 CSV fields are fully complete. 3. Confirm your dates are perfectly normalized. 4. Check that your evidence chain paragraphs are drafted. And 5. Guarantee your provenance is 100% transparent. Adjust your CSV, rerun the Python script, and don't stop until it passes perfectly.
And the output? Well, if it passes, subjective historical synthesis officially transforms into hard evidence. You now have a beautifully organized, fully defensible, and peer-reviewable dataset that is completely ready for timeline drafting and narrative construction. You are no longer just guessing about the history of blockchain based on Reddit rumors, you are actually proving it. So, here's a thought to leave you with as you prepare for the next step of drafting your timeline. When you rigorously stress test the past and really scrutinize those primary sources, what hidden, paradigm-shifting links in the intellectual lineage of Web3 will your evidence chains uncover next? It's kind of thrilling to think about what forgotten origins are just waiting to be connected in those digital archives.
All right, it's time to expand your technical toolkit and start verifying those historical claims. This explainer was made by Forge College, so definitely head over to our website at forge.college to dive deeper into this subject and explore a ton of other awesome Web3-related topics. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. As you head back into the archives, remember to keep asking yourself, what hidden piece of blockchain's history will your evidence uncover next? Happy hunting, everyone, and I'll see you in the next stage of our timeline.